Well, yesterday, May 13th, was the feast day of Julian of Norwich, the medieval Christian mystic. And if you were with us last Sunday, you know we were talking about Julian of Norwich and this term that she coined called oneing, which was used to talk about our union, our oneness with God. And I know that's a head scratcher for many of us. It's difficult for us to wrap our minds around. How can we and God be one? Well, our church member, Reverend Marcine Rienstra, was watching last Sunday on YouTube, and she reached out to me this week with a beautiful metaphor about wanting that was so helpful to me, and I hope it will be helpful to you. Reverend Marty said that when she was thinking about wanting, she was thinking about the times in her life when she was pregnant, how her baby and her were one body, yet they were two beings. And she gave me this beautiful image of God as the mother with a divine umbilical cord. How God is our mother who gave us life. One body, but two beings connected by this divine umbilical cord that spiritually nourishes us and feeds us and continues to give us life. I love that image so much. I'm so grateful to Reverend Marty for sharing that with me. And of course, it's so appropriate for today as well, because today, of course, we are celebrating Mother's Day. When I first came here to Douglas UCC, it wasn't as a pastor, it was as a visitor. I came here almost 12 years ago. And on that Sunday, I was so amazed that when this congregation prayed the Lord's Prayer, they prayed, "Our Mother, Father." That was the first time I ever heard that. And that is so true. God is both our Father and Mother, as Julian of Norwich famously said. Just as truly as God is our Father, so truly is God our Mother. Now, she said that in the 13th century, so you can see why the church wanted to silence her, and they did. The church, of course, was led by men back then, as it is today in many ways. And the church fathers at that time, in the culture in which they were, it would have been inconceivable for them to picture God the Almighty as a woman. But if all of us were created in the very image and likeness of God, as Scripture says, then God must be both masculine and feminine, father and mother. Now, in our gospel reading today for the 6th Sunday of Easter, you see that Jesus refers to God as Father, as he did throughout the Gospels. Again, Jesus was an enlightened being, but he was also a human being, a man who was the product of his time and culture. Now, the Gospels we know were written in Greek. The Greek word that the gospel writers used when Jesus was talking about God as Father was the Greek word Abba. And Abba really means daddy or papa. What the gospel writers were trying to express was that when Jesus was talking about God, he was talking about a loving papa, not a stern, vengeful, judgmental, angry God, but a very loving parent, a papa who loves us beyond our wildest imagination. Now, Jesus, of course, didn't speak Greek, or English for that matter. Jesus spoke Aramaic. In Aramaic, scholars tell us that that Greek word Abba probably came from the Aramaic word, which Jesus would have used, which is abun. And abun means birther of the cosmos. That's how Jesus understood God, as the birther. And I don't know about you, but when I think of birther, I think of mother. Have you ever thought about God as mother? I mean, when you close your eyes to pray, do you picture a woman? When you're in need and you're talking to God, who are you talking to? An old man up in the clouds? Or are you picturing a loving mother holding you in her arms? I first started to pray to God the Mother almost 15 years ago now, and it has so enriched my spiritual life and deepened my relationship with God. There are so many beautiful images you can find on the internet of God the Mother. Just go to an image search, type in God the Mother, the Divine Mother. You'll see such beautiful pieces of art depicting her. Print them out and use them in your meditation time this week. It will open you up, expand your thinking to who God is. Now, I much prefer the image of a loving mother cradling me in her arms than I do the image of some old white guy up in the clouds with a long gray beard who's keeping track of all of my mistakes and shaking his finger at me. Okay? I've shared with you before, I love the Christian book and movie which is called The Shack. And if you remember in The Shack, God is portrayed by a black woman whose name is Papa. A woman named Papa. I love that, and I love that The Shack has become so popular because it has expanded people's thinking about God. Now, of course, God is not a woman, and God is not a man, because God isn't a person. Now, I know we human beings, we want to make God in our image. It's easier for us that way, to picture God looking like us. But God isn't a person. Scripture tells us who God is. We're reading from the Gospel of John. In John chapter 4, verse 24, it says, God is a spirit, and those who worship God worship in spirit. God is a spirit. And it's that spirit that Jesus is talking about in today's gospel reading. He is continuing with his farewell discourse to his apostles. These are his last words to them before his trial and arrest. He knows he's not going to be with them for much longer. And as you heard, he says to them, I will not leave you orphaned. Again, he uses that beautiful parent-child image. I will not leave you orphaned, for I'm going to be with you in spirit. I'm always going to be with you. He says, I'm going to abide with you and within you. And he says, I'm going to send an advocate. Now, the word advocate has that Latin root word voco in it. Voco means voice. Jesus is saying that voice of the Spirit, that voice of truth, that divine voice, dwells within you. In the United Church of Christ, our denomination, we have a tagline. It says, God is still speaking. That's what we believe in the UCC. God is still speaking in us and to us and through us. But we have to get still and listen. That's why in Scripture it says, be still and know that I am God. Father Thomas Keating, the late Christian theologian, said, silence is God's first language. Everything else is a poor translation. Silence is God's first language. God speaks to us in the silence. It's why the medieval Christian mystic Meister Eckhart said, the mystics of all the faith traditions speak the same language. The mystics of all the faiths, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, regardless of where they lived and what language they spoke the same language. And what Meister Eckhart means by that is they were tuned in to that divine voice that speaks to us in the silence. And so, my friends, that's what I want to invite you to do in this season of Easter. You know, we're still in the season of Easter. Easter isn't just one day, it's a season. And it's a season of new growth and new life. So may you find time each and every day in this season of Easter to get still, to go into the silence, to listen to that divine voice of Sophia. Did you know that the early Christians, the Gnostics, referred to that inner voice of the Spirit as Sophia? A feminine name. That's how they understood her. May you find time to attune yourself more fully to her voice, to rest in the arms of the Divine Mother, and to picture that beautiful divine umbilical cord connecting you with a loving God who nurtures you, feeds you, and continues to give you life and to make all things new. Happy Mother's Day. Namaste.
Hello, everybody. This is Sal Sapienza, and I'm so excited to share with all of you that I've written a brand new book. The book is called Childish Thinking: How the Church Keeps Us Stuck in Sunday School. Now, the title Childish Thinking comes from Christian scripture, where we hear that if we wish to grow in spiritual understanding, then we must let go of childish ways of thinking. And yet so many Christians today, even after years of Bible study and Sunday services, still have a very elementary understanding of their faith. They still understand God as some old man with a long gray beard. They think heaven is a place up in the clouds with pearly gates, that the devil is some red guy with horns and a pitchfork, and that hell is a fiery place below the earth. Those are things that we tell children. None of those descriptions appear anywhere in the Bible. And so in Childish Thinking, I try to dispel many of those misnomers, and I explore topics such as God, Jesus, heaven, hell, sin, prayer, and resurrection from the higher perspectives of ancient Christian mystics and contemporary progressive theologians. After each chapter, there are prayers for quiet contemplation and questions for personal reflection and journal writing. Come learn how you can let go of old ways of thinking and begin to see things with new eyes. Come and learn how you can finally graduate from Sunday school. The book is available now on Amazon, and you can read the entire introduction at childishthinking.faith.